Hey everybody, Icy Cat here. In this episode of In Depth, we're going to talk about randomization and replayability, and what it could bring to the next Rainbow Six if implemented and done right. So how do you keep replayability high, especially in a genre packed with tons of other competing entries? Features like destruction or the name recognition of the Rainbow Six franchise are certainly enough to get people to buy the game in the first place, but how do you keep it exciting enough to keep players going for a long time without getting bored? There's no one answer to that. A lot of it comes down to how all the components of the game come together in the first place. Is the game fun? Is it well balanced? Does it have lasting appeal? Is it dynamic? Does it have variety? There's even more that goes into that equation, but those are a lot of the main ones. The answer to much of that is subjective, of course. What's fun to you may not be to someone else. What you think is well balanced, someone else might find problematic. Let's step away from some of those subjective points then and focus on the last two. Is it dynamic? Yeah, it features a fully interactive procedural destruction system. Combine that with traps and barricades, and you can alter the flow of combat and create bottlenecks in a different place every time you play. It's definitely dynamic. That leaves the last question. Does it have variety? Well, we have no idea yet. All we've been shown so far is adversarial hostage rescue. We have no idea what other modes will be in play. Some kind of co-op and single player has been confirmed, but we have no idea what it'll be like. They should be as robust as possible to keep a wide variety of players fully engaged. And while that's very important, there's something that affects replay value even more than game types. Most games fail to pay attention to it, but it's been in a Rainbow Six game before, and that's randomization. In game design, anything with adjustable properties or behaviors is referred to as an entity. That's oversimplifying it in layman's terms, but you get the point. Enemies, spawn points, lights, vehicles, particle generators, weapons, event triggers, objective positions, all of these are entities. They all have values that a game programmer can adjust and place as an in-game asset once the level is built. It's kind of like having a library of pre-built items that you sprinkle around your maps. In Rainbow Six Ravenshield, some of these entities were randomized in a way. For instance, more enemy spawn points were placed in a map than the maximum amount of enemies, which meant that when the map loaded, you were never sure exactly where you'd run into an enemy, as they never started from the same place twice. This kept things interesting. In later Rainbow games, you tended to know when you were going to run into the bad guys. In Vegas Campaign, you always knew there were going to be two guys behind that door, or a guy was always going to come down that one stairway. That kind of predictability never happened in Ravenshield. You never knew where it was going to come from, so you were always on high alert, checking every door and every stairway. There weren't really any safe zones where you knew you wouldn't run into people. Enemy behavior also had some randomized elements. Sometimes they'd throw a grenade, sometimes they'd suicide rush, sometimes they would run away, sometimes they would just throw down their gun and surrender. There were other elements too. Some guys randomly wore armor and their weapons were random. It was never the same game twice. This kept things tense, and that's why Terrorist Hunt in Ravenshield was so exciting and part of why people still play it to this day, even though the game's been out for over 12 years. If they brought this kind of randomization into Siege, it would be huge for replay. But don't just stop where Ravenshield left off. Keep going. Imagine playing co-op bomb defusal, and they placed 10 different spawn positions for the bomb, one of which was randomly chosen each time you loaded the map. Also put in a certain threshold on the timer. On a 3-minute round, you'd have to rush, and on a 5-minute round, you could breathe a little easier. Now mix in randomized enemy spawn positions and weapon and armor types. That bomb defusal mode would feel like a unique gameplay experience every time you played it. Or take something like Co-op Terrorist Hunt. The only objective in this traditional game mode has ever been to wipe out the enemy units. But what if we threw in some objectives that were randomized too? Maybe grab the intel off the laptop, but there were a dozen different places it could be. Maybe one of the guards has a flash drive you have to capture, but it's never the same guard twice. Maybe there's a security system that has to be disabled sometimes by cutting the power, or a security station that needs the video feed cut. Maybe sometimes more than one of these secondary objectives are in play, like find the laptop and cut the camera feeds. And maybe other times there's no secondary objectives at all. There are other ways to play with this too. We don't know how much the barricade and destruction system will carry over into co-op and campaign, but maybe the barricades and traps can be in random places too. That way you'll never have the same route through a level. A variable time of day system would be another neat component to play with. We've seen the house map during the night and during the day. Wouldn't it be interesting to see a day-night version of every map? It's also a really cheap and easy way for the developers to make it seem like the game shipped with twice as many maps by having a day and night version of each one. Just like that, 10 maps become 20, with no new map design. Of course, not all these ideas need to be randomized. Perhaps some are just custom server settings that the host can turn on or off as well. Also, randomized, that's a bit of a misnomer here. Truly random would be too chaotic. What we're talking about here is having multiple predefined positions, one or more of which is randomly selected from those possibilities. What do you think about randomizing elements within Siege? What other ways could randomizing factors in the game change for replayability? Head on over to the forums or subreddit to discuss, or leave a comment down below. If you like the in-depth videos, please like and subscribe to stay up to date on other topics as new ones come out. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.